Hello everyone, welcome all of you. I am Dr. Anil Kolpe, Assistant Professor, Arihant College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Bavdan Budruk, Pune. Today, we are going to discuss about nature, scope and limitations of macroeconomics. First, introduction. Macroeconomics is policy oriented. Macroeconomics is conformed with the behavior of the economy in total. It does not examine individual behavior. Its policies are general. Macroeconomic theories provide explanation to interrelationship and causation among different macroeconomic variables and issues relating to the aggregate economic behavior and the associated problem. The next, nature of macroeconomics. First nature is that macroeconomics is aggregative in nature. It means macro analysis focuses on the economic activities for economy as a whole. It studies aggregate or averages like general prices, uh, level of national income, level of total employment, total money stock with the economy, aggregate demand, aggregate supply, etc. Then second one, use of monetary expression. Macroeconomic studies aggregates or averages for the economy as a whole. It is totally impractical to measure the aggregates in physical quantity. It is not possible to add add up on tons uh, adaptance of the meters of textiles, unit of cars produced in different varieties. So the macroeconomic variable are always expressed monetary terms by converting physical quantity and in the money values with the help of prices. Then third one, use of separation between consumers and producers. In macroeconomic analysis, we have to think in terms of economy as a whole. That is, we have to consider all producers in the market of one sector becomes consumers in other sector of the economy. For example, a farmer is a producer in agriculture sector, but at the same time he is a consumer of the sector. Then fourth one, macroeconomics, one man's expenditure is others income. It means at micro level, if an individual spends his income, then it is reduced to the extent, but at macro level, his spending is an earning for some other individual, and the national income is not reduced but remain the same. For example, Mr. X spends 100 rupees per month on the purchase of food items. Bakery shops, the bakery owner gets these 100 rupees as his income from the sales of these items. So expenditure of X is income for bakery owner. Then fifth one, income is the key of variable. In macroeconomics, the level of income is more important variable, while in microeconomic, price is more important variable. Macroeconomics studies the general price level, which shows the average changes in price of all commodities taken together. If the average price level increases, it implies that money income for all sectors in increasing there is no change in the purchasing power of the people. The next, it studies the behavior of aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Macroeconomics, the changes in aggregate demand and aggregate supply, Then aggregate demand is considered of consumption of goods and services by households, investment and demand for capital goods from firms. Demand for goods and services from government are also considered here. Macroeconomic studies relationship in aggregate demand and the level of income. The next equilibrium condition in macroeconomics is more complex. For economic equilibrium, sometimes equilibrium in money market, factor market, product market is required in addition to the equilibrium of aggregate demand and aggregate supply. It means aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. Then next part is that scope of macroeconomics. The basis of macroeconomics is deductive reasoning. It means that the deductive method we derive an inference from general to particular. Here we study the economy as a whole. The scope of macroeconomics can be discussed by the following some points. First point is that theory of income and employment. It means in this point macroeconomics is concerned with the aggregates which relates to the whole economy. It considers total demand for capital goods and consumer goods. It thinks in terms of total investment and total supply of all types of goods by the industries. Then second one, theory of economic growth and distribution. Macroeconomic studies the problem of growth and development of the economy. It studies the meaning of growth and development, sources of growth as well as the causes of underdevelopment. This branch of macroeconomics is important because it guides the development countries for increasing their economic growth rates and helps the developed countries to maintain their high growth rate. Then third one, theory of consumption and investment. Consumption is the primary activity in the economy. People spend on food, clothing or machineries, factory buildings, etc. It shows that people purchase consumer goods or capital goods. The capital goods or producers goods like machinery is an investment because it is used for the producing consumer goods. So, future consumption of society depends on present investment at the macro level. Then fourth point is theory of business cycle. Fluctuations or changes in economic activities are common problem of the developed as well as underdeveloped countries. Macroeconomic theories of trade cycle give the causes and effects for the phases of recession, depression, revival and boom. In these phases, there are periodical changes in the level of output, employment, prices and investments. It also studies the anti-cyclical policies to control the trade cycles. Then next, fifth, theory of unemployment. Unemployment of scarce resources result into slow rate of economic growth. Keynes economics become popular since 1930 because it provided the reason and policy measures for removing unemployment during the Great Depression in USA. While discussing unemployment, macroeconomics also deals with consumption, investment, output, etc. Then another point is that theory of inflation. The problem of the rate of increase in price level or inflation is studied in macroeconomics. The demand pull and cost push theories give reasons for inflation. Effects of inflation on money wage rate and employment is analyzed by Phillips curve. Anti-inflationary policies to control the inflation rates are all covered under macroeconomics. And last, theory of international trade. In present times, international trade is the lifeline of economies of the world. Macroeconomics deals with equilibrium of balance of payment, foreign exchange market, how the foreign exchange rate is determined under various types of market. Foreign trade policies argument for the against protected trade plays a significant role for the overall development of the economy. Okay, then next, the limitations of macroeconomics. There are certain limitations of macroeconomic analysis. These stem from attempts to yield macroeconomics generalization from individual experiences. Following are the limitations of macroeconomics which make the microeconomics analysis necessary to supplement the macroeconomic analysis. First limitation is that aggregative analysis. It means macroeconomics gives an aggregative analysis of the economy. If we study microeconomics, then we will never get an idea of the problem at the national level. But the averages in macroeconomics can be misleading. A study of aggregates may leads to believe that no change has taken place and as such no necessary policy is called. For example, if the agricultural prices fall by 50% while industrial prices rise by 50%, the general price level will remain unchanged because the two types of price changes neutralize each other. It means the aggregative result may be misleading. This is the limitations of macroeconomic analysis or studies. Then second limitation is that micro and macro aspects have to be studied. It means policymakers should not take only broad economics aggregates. For example, there might be an overall increase in national income, but if there are growing inequalities of income and wealth, then the number of poor people below poverty line might be increasing. So, while interpreting macro variables, inequalities microeconomic studies are essential by the planners. For implementation of government policies, one has to consider micro implications of those policy measures. Then another limitation is that policy of consumption. Policy of consumption, it means the greatest danger in macroeconomics is the danger of excessive generalization from individual experience to a system as a whole. It means what is true of an individual components may not be necessarily by true of the aggregate. For example, there is nothing wrong in an individual withdrawing deposit from the bank, but if all the depositors rush to withdraw their deposit at the same time from the same bank, then the bank will be in trouble. This is the limitations of the macroeconomics analysis. Then fourth one is that deceptive. For economic analysis, breaking up of macro variables is also important at times because these variables can be deceptive. For example, there are two countries A and B. National income of country A is very high compared to the country B. But an economist should not jump to the conclusion that the welfare of people of country A is greater than the welfare of country B. This conclusion may prove wrong. National income of country shows only the growth of one sector and no development of other sectors like industry, education, infrastructure, etc. Then next, uneven effects on various sectors. An aggregate tendency of economy may not influence of all sectors of the economy in the same manner. A general rise in prices may not affect all the sectors of the community in the similar manner. So, some sections may be affected more adversely than other. Some industries may be benefited more than other industries. And last, unnecessarily stress on aggregative variables. It means a danger of excessive thinking in terms of aggregates is found in macroeconomics. These aggregates are by no means homogeneous. We should always take into account aggregative variables which are homogeneous in nature. This alone can lead to accurate result. But here we are having the aggregates which are heterogeneous in nature and cannot be aggregated. Macroeconomics will lose its utility if we start practicing aggregating the heterogeneous variables. That means that is micro and macro seems to be competitive, but basically they are complementary to each other. In fact, they are so interdependent that neither approach is complete without the other. We cannot attain a complete understanding of the functioning of the economic system unless we integrate the two approaches. These are the all limitations are facing the macroeconomic analysis. Okay, thank you. Thanks for watching my video.